Hi, my name is Andra and I will be talking about capital punishment. Capital punishment, the execution of an offender sentenced to death after a conviction by a court of law of a criminal offense, is known as being established as early as 18th century BC in the Code of Hammurabi. Since then, it has continued to be used in America when the first settlers brought it with them from England. The methods and laws surrounding capital punishment have evolved and changed into what we have today. It is an ever-changing process that has been reformed many times, but sadly it is not without flaws. Capital punishment laws are known for being first recorded in 18th century BC in the Code of Hammurabi for 25 different crimes. Continue to be used and recorded throughout history across Afro-Eurasia. The means by which it was conducted in the beginning were crucifixion, beating to death, burning alive, drowning, and impalement. The common method changed over time to hanging, which was used most commonly in Britain. As time went on, capital punishment seemed to be used more. In the 16th century, under the reign of Henry VIII, there were 72,000 executions. As the amount of executions increased, the crimes punishable by law increased also. By 1700, there were 222 crimes punishable by law. Oh. Capital punishment laws are known for being first recorded in the 18th century BC in the Code of Hammurabi for 25 different crimes. They continue to be used and recorded throughout history across Afro-Eurasia. The means by which it was conducted in the beginning were crucifixion, drowning, beating to death, burning alive, and impalement. The common method changed over time to hanging, which is most commonly used in England. As time went on, capital punishment seemed to be used more. In the 16th century, under the reign of Henry VIII, there were 72,000 recorded executions. As the amount of executions increased, the crimes punishable by death increased also. By 1700, there were 222 crimes punishable by death in Britain, which included stealing, cutting down a tree, robbing a rabbit warren, an overcrowded residential area, marrying a Jew, not confessing to a crime, and treason in other countries. Capital punishment in America was brought by the first settlers from England. Although they had left England, they continued to use capital punishment. The first recorded execution in the new colonies was Captain George Kendall in the Jamestown colony of Virginia in 1608 for being a spy. Not even 5 years after we enacted the divine moral and martial law, which used the death penalty for even minor offenses such as stealing a grape, killing chickens, and trading with Indians. Capital punishment wasn't challenged until a century later. It was influenced by the creation of Capital punishment wasn't challenged until a century later. It was influenced by the creation of On Crime and Punishment by Cesar Ricardo. The essay gives abolitionists a voice and the energy to protest it, and resulted in the abolition of the death penalty in Austria and Tuscany. It also resulted in the reform of America's death penalty laws. Thomas Jefferson refined the crimes punishable by death to the crimes of murder and treason. This change brought us closer to the modern-day capital punishment we use today. During the abolitionist movement, capital punishment grew in the United States. Almost half of the country has abolished capital punishment. The crimes punishable by law haven't changed much since Jefferson's reform, they've only been further specified. The crimes punishable by law haven't changed much since Jefferson's reform, they've only been further specified. The crimes include treason, terrorism, espionage, federal murder, large-scale drug trafficking, and attempting to kill a witness, juror, or court official in certain cases. These aren't universal for all states, because capital punishment is specific to the state. Getting the death penalty is a lengthy process, which has many safeguards to make sure the decision is best and fair for the crime. Some of the safeguards include requirements such as aggravating and mitigating circumstances be taken into account when deciding whether to execute a defendant. The sentence fits the crime, a jury decides, and capital punishment laws clearly set out what crimes the death penalty applies to. Whether it's federal Whether it's a federal or state case, most death penalty laws apply when the defendant murders a victim. There are some exceptions. For example, the federal crime of treason and espionage are punishable by death. In some states, a second conviction for a sexual crime committed against a child may warrant the death penalty. The primary method of execution in the United States is currently lethal injection, although a legislator may prescribe the manner of execution, but the manner may not inflict unnecessary or deliberate pain upon the prisoner. All these measures are put into place to make sure capital punishment follows the laws and amendments of the Constitution. All these measures are put into place to make sure capital punishment follows the laws and amendments of the Constitution. Although there are many measures in place and the process is very thorough to make sure capital punishment is right for the crime, that doesn't mean that people aren't sentenced to it. Since 1977, when capital punishment was reinstated in America, there have been over 1,400 executions of prisoners, and as of July 2015, there are over 3,000 prisoners awaiting execution. Over 4,000 prisoners, but how many of them are actually guilty? Over 4,000 prisoners, but how many are actually guilty? The process of punishing a person for a crime is thorough. The process of punishing a person for a crime is a thorough process, but it doesn't mean that it is without flaws. Since 1973, there have been over 150 prisoners who were convicted. Since 1973, there have been over 150 prisoners who were convicted, sentenced to death, and then found innocent. This number doesn't include the amount of people the Innocence Project has found innocent, including the people not sentenced to death. The Innocence Project is a national litigation. The Innocence Project is a national litigation and public organization dedicated to exonerating wrongfully convicted individuals through DNA testing and reforming the criminal justice system to prevent further injustice. These numbers are largely prisoners awaiting death row to make. The Innocence Project. The Innocence Project largely targets prisoners awaiting death row because to make an impact, the organization. The number are largely prisoners. The numbers are largely prisoners awaiting death row because to make an impact, the organization, like the Innocence Project, These numbers are largely prisoners awaiting death row because to make an impact, the organization, like the Innocence Project, tries to save prisoners before execution. This means they aren't counting prisoners who have already been executed. This means these aren't counting prisoners that have already been executed that were innocent and not given a chance to be free. Capital punishment has been around since the time of Hammurabi and the 12 tablets and is still used today. It is constantly changing and evolving to meet our laws and amendments. Also, since the abolitionist movement has been reformed to make sure that all factors are taken into consideration of sentencing someone to capital punishment because it is a serious punishment. Although capital punishment sentencing is very thorough practice. Although capital punishment sentencing is a very thorough Although capital punishment sentencing is a very thorough process, many people are sentenced to it, many are even innocent. Capital punishment has been changing since the beginning, but all the changes and reforms don't make it flawless.